Steps I Took podcast.
We're back again.
Yes, sir.
Feeling great. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, had a productive day. And yeah, it's been good. How about you?
Yeah, also been productive.
Yeah.
And finishing off the evening being productive with a great guest.
Yeah, I'm proper excited about this guest because we met at a wedding party. Like imagine like you're at a wedding, dancing, cutting shapes, and then who would have known that like that's why the world is so cool, because like you can just meet someone at an event and then you don't know what's gonna trickle down later on.
It's true. How long ago did you meet?
It was like December 2023. Yeah,
So like basically a year later,
nearly a year,
here we are.
And here we are, yeah.
Fantastic.
Is
We need
it?
more of those parties. I am also really excited about this guest because this guest, she is leading the way in terms of supporting not just women, but men as well, and actually the underdogs in building and scaling their business, predominantly in tech, but in everything. So really, really excited to introduce Amoye.
Welcome, Amoye.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you so much, Steps I Took. What a great platform.
Yeah.
Thank
No, I
you.
appreciate you being here in your busy schedule. Like I've seen on Instagram, you're like going from here to here, here to here, here to there. So the fact that you could come down and spend a bit of time with us is great, man.
And still finding time to work out.
Trying.
We really want to get into it because we know you have a lot to give. But before we start, we ask everybody, what has been the best part of your week so far?
That's a great question. Best part of my week thus far is just finding balance, finding time and making sure that I balance all of my priorities and my happiness.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, no, nice.
How have you done that?
Thinking about what makes me happy and putting it to the top of my priority list as opposed to what I have to do. So I think that's made me.
I'm taking that tip from
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Like, how do you find? I guess you find peace in doing that as well, right? Like,
I definitely find peace in prioritizing my happiness. I think for many years, I've just been a people pleaser and sort of a person that wants so badly for people to be happy. And I grew up as the oldest child. So I think like there's this kind of internalized behavior where I just want everyone to be okay. I'm kind of like a protector, provider as the oldest child. So I've internalized these behaviors and these patterns of wanting to be a people pleaser. And I've stepped really outside of that zone over the past few, I could say months really, because it's still a work in progress, and I've really centered myself and my own needs and prioritized my happiness. And I found that the world hasn't ended. No one's dead. Everyone's okay. So this has been quite the journey.
Congratulations, because a lot of people, myself included, struggle with being able to do that for themselves. So really well done.
It's especially hard when you're like a parent, when you're, a business owner, when you have, people that are reporting to you that you're accountable to, family members, and you're like that family member who always has the answers and everything figured out. But it has been a transformative exercise for me.
yeah, no, that's great. Like, and I think, I think it's important that you say no when you need to say no. Sometimes I think we're just so easy to say yeah, and it's hard to say no. But I think like certainly with me, as I've gotten older, now I'm just like, yeah, nah, like it's not for me.
It's too long.
Yeah, Did you say it's too long?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, because it's interesting hearing your accent and then hearing, because that's what I would say, like a British
Right?
slang.
It's long,
It's
but
long.
I know because I lived in the UK for a bit, so I kind of
Picked up our
used to-
slang.
Yeah. Tell us about life as a little girl. I know that you're of Jamaican heritage.
yes,
And obviously, but your parents migrated to America when you was like 18 months.
yeah.
So what was that like? I guess, can you remember being in Jamaica?
Yeah, I can't remember growing up in Jamaica. I came I as you said, I moved to North America at 18 months. My mom was like a very young woman. Her mom had sent for her. I don't know if that's a term that we
Yeah, I
use,
know what
right?
you mean. Yeah.
They sent for her, and she brought me. My dad then came thereafter. And I just remember just kind of having to like adjust. I think there was like a period of adjustment. My memory is not clear, but I remember there was a lot of different cultural norms that we had to fit into as immigrants. And my mom was a very hardworking person. Like she had like every typical Caribbean person, 4 to 5 jobs. But her real job was, or her real passion was being a nurse. So she was in school studying to be a nurse while working 2 to 3 grocery store jobs, restaurants, all these different hustles. My dad the same. So I naturally picked up this inherent desire to be a hustler. I wouldn't even say it's a desire, just this default, just my default. My default is to just hustle. As I saw it growing up, and being of Caribbean descent, understanding just sort of the socioeconomic challenges that come into play when you're an immigrant, that come into play when you don't necessarily have family, have the systems and the structure around you. You really have to figure out, how am I going to make that next dollar? And so I think I internalized at a young age. At 13 years old, I started my first business. I was a graphic designer, so I was making these graphics on these computer systems that my dad would get. And then I would go to the local Jamaican restaurants and Caribbean restaurants, and I would see their marketing was pretty, not the best reflection of the amazing food that they had. So I would offer my services as a designer and graphic person to rebrand them at 13, 14 years old. My dad would be like driving me around like, oh, my dad, she can't really do a nice thing for you. And like we'd be doing the menus, and you walk in, you see just a chalkboard and the graphics. So I would, provide that service to these small businesses in my community. And it was a hustle for me. In addition to the newspaper, in addition to being a student at school, I always just, tried to find ways to make life easier for the people around me, and businesses do better than what I thought they, than what I wanted the success of the business to reflect what I truly saw in the business.
So from a young age, you've been looking around trying to help people.
Yeah, and
do
I
better.
didn't even realize it. I think it was just something that was natural. I just saw so much greatness. And so I think that's followed me now into my adulthood, where I can kind of identify a gap, or I identify an opportunity, and I'm like, okay, here's actually a way you can fill this gap, or you can service this, right? Or you can look at another target audience, or another, open up more market share for your business or what you have going on. So I think it's just something that's followed me. And going back to sort of when I was younger, I had such an eclectic upbringing. It was so random. Like I was in a performing arts high school. So my parents, we lived in I don't know like how I would describe it, like without offending anybody, but we lived in the hood, which is quite normal for immigrant families when they just come into a new country. But we were kind of sectioned off into this hood, and the sort of trajectory that my parents saw for women, girls my age, the high school that we were immediately put into didn't necessarily yield the best long-term outcomes for the students. Like a lot of my friends who grew up in my neighborhood, who were going to the local neighborhood, the local high school, pregnant at 15 or 16 years old, in jail, worse, dead, caught up in certain lifestyles. So my parents were so adamant about putting me in extracurricular activities, so I could evade, some of that trajectory. And my dad, for one, put me in classical music. So I learned the piano, and I learned to play the violin, and then subsequently the viola, which is similar instrument, just a little bit bigger in the alto clef.
Wow.
And then from there, my parents were like, okay, you're not going to go in this school. You're going to be different. So I was listening to classical music, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and I was immersed in a totally different world outside of, inside mentally, but not matching sort of the lifestyle that we were living. Like where you walk down the street and you're hearing Caribbean music, or you're hearing, Indian music. I was literally like in my own bubble listening to my Bach and like analyzing like music from the 14th, 15th century.
How did that feel? Yeah. How did that?
Yeah, it was
yeah.
random.
How did that feel? Sort of, you know, like, did you enjoy listening to classical music and playing?
Absolutely.
And then did you also enjoy, I guess, the outside element of, you know, being immersed in Caribbean music and?
Yeah, I think it just allowed me to become this sort of hybrid person that could just place myself in so many different scenarios and adapt because I just had to adapt. So I would find myself going to school where I was the only Black person in my entire music program and Black women, sorry, in my entire music program. And I would, the case studies that we would study in school and sort of the upbringing of my fellow like classmates did not mirror my upbringing at all. So we would come and we'd have to do homework or we'd have to use practical examples of, you know, where you experienced this or you experienced that, or did you, you know, happen to go to this symphony? Did your parents put you in this? Did their parents? And I would be like, I can't relate. Like my biggest cultural experience is Caravana, right? Which is an annual festival that happens in Toronto. So I couldn't relate, but I could understand and I could empathize and I could sort of draw in my colorful examples and bring that to the world that I was in, which is a performing arts high school, right? So those are my earliest examples of having to adapt and kind of look at the world, see the world outside of myself, but also see myself as the world in a sense. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I'm also so grateful for my parents' sacrifice in don't get mad at me, parents, but forcing me to go to that school where I wanted to go to the lit school where everyone else was. I wanted to kind of have that life, but they were just like, no, we're putting you in this. We don't want you to end up in this situation like similar to your friends. And it changed my life completely. Like being in that environment forced me to think differently, forced me to tackle challenges, problem solve differently, not resort to sort of what I would see everyone else resorting to, but kind of think outside of the box.
That's really beautiful. I was actually going to ask you, as a teenager, as a young teenage girl, with all your friends around you, probably doing a madness, which looked like a lot of fun at the time. How did you manage with your parents in the household, and probably your siblings as well, who are also forced to do something they don't necessarily want to do? How did you manage that? Because right now you have a really good reflection on how it was, but how was it actually at the time?
I was pissed. What? I was like, why me? Like, what is this? Like, this is, what kind of boring life is this? And I would kind of live vicariously through people, and I would sometimes rebel. I'm gonna be honest. When I went to high school, actually, like I picked up on a lot of racism and a lot of, you know, microaggressions that I was experiencing, and I had a difficult time balancing that environment and then going back where it was so celebrated and so normal to be Black. So I kind of felt, take me out of this. Like, why am I here in this environment where I'm being tolerated and not celebrated, but I can't even go into the environment where I can feel normal? But I think it impressed upon me this thinking that if you're not here, another Black girl is going to have to go through this. Another Black boy is going to have to go through this. So you may as well be here and be great, right? And be the very best thing that you can. And I think some things that came out of that was very interesting. Like, we actually, I don't want to say forced our school, but we convinced our school to do a Black History Month.
Wow.
That's good.
When you say we, who's we?
Like, our small segment of Black students, which was probably about maybe 8 of us in the entire school of probably like 1,000 students. And remember, we have to audition. This is a performing arts school, so we have to audition to get into the school. So you mean to tell me that out of the hundreds of thousands of auditions, only 8 Black kids in the entire city were worthy of getting into the school, right? So that also signified to me that, okay, I need to be here. There's a reason why I'm here. So we created the first Black History Month. We then went on to kind of create different initiatives to sort of inspire more diversity, more cultural awareness. Obviously, I had my fair share of like racist incidents, but
How did you manage those?
I lashed out a couple times. Like I ended up in the principal's office. Yeah, I had like
Were they understanding
monkey taped. I actually had a black principal who gaslit us.
Really?
And it was quite interesting. Yeah.
A black principal, and there was
black-
only 8
Yeah.
black kids in the school.
Yeah.
That is
and
crazy.
then it just happened that we were the most vocal. We were the most, political, and we were always in their office.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And going through that process, like you said that you had this urge of sense of that you needed to be here because you were kind of, I guess it kind of almost goes back to what you mentioned earlier on, where you, from a young age, were helping others and
Right.
stuff. And it's almost like you were like, actually, me being here is going to help the people that come after
That come
you.
after. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is what I took away from that experience of my high school. I actually look back and I loved it. Now that I think about it, I love the fact that it's tricky because in the moment it felt really stressful, and it was like, I just want to be a kid. I don't want to be a freedom fighter. I don't want to be a political person. I just want to be a kid. But I think it also encouraged me to have integrity about things and just have this sense of justice for my people. And ever since then, I have been very dedicated to the cause of African, Caribbean, Black, people of color globally. I've been very much interested in our rise, our economic footprint on the world, and how we can collaborate together to overcome the challenges that we face. And I think that was one of my first examples of understanding, wow, you really have the powerful ability to see, people of color in a light that the world doesn't necessarily see us in, and really prioritize our success in a way that is meaningful and tangible.
So whilst you were at, training at this, in music, was your ambition to go into music, or did you kind of realize that actually you're here, but actually this other overriding like passion and power to kind of help others was something that you want? Like, yeah, what did you actually want to do doing that?
I really got into the music thing to make my dad happy, if I'm gonna be real. I think my parents wanted so much for me because they have been like, look, we gave up everything to come here, and you guys are our investment. Like, that sounds so bad. I don't know.
I hear it.
Yeah,
though.
no, yeah.
Don't judge me, but
it makes sense,
they're just
yeah.
basically like, yo, we gave up everything. We're putting it all into you guys. Just bring me an ROI. Like, you know what I mean? And I think my dad, he just really believed in me so heavy. Like, he was just like, there's nothing that my kid can do wrong. Like, she's going to figure it out. I may be, it might be a write-off for me, but this girl's going to figure it out. So I think I just wanted him to be happy. Like, I just put my energy in. I remember him like not having a car and taking me on the subway to my music lessons and leaving work and having to do all these things to just make sure that I was in my lessons on time, talking to my teachers and trying to understand, like, I don't really understand what she's learning, but, just doing everything he could. Same with my mom. So I felt like a huge, like, this music thing, if it works out, I really idolized Alicia Keys back then, because I was the only Black woman that I could see in the classical music space that was able to mesh her culture and the classical culture and really make something that sounded great. So I loved Alicia Keys. Plus, she's an Aquarius. Shout out to Aquarius. But I think it left my soul, my passion to continue that when I was getting ready to leave university, high school, because I was like, how can I actually make money in the music sector unless I'm like a professional musician that's constantly playing? It doesn't make sense. So that's when I started to think, okay, let me get into law. So I got into university, and my degree the degree that I wanted to pursue was like law. I wanted to be a lawyer. I ended up going into political science and communications. And during that path, I really got immersed in sort of the Black experience, right? Learning about the Malcolm X's of the world, the Martin Luther King, just the big names. I could list them so much. Thomas Sankara. I'm probably going to list a lot of like African, but I started to go into that world, and it was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be a lawyer, because if I'm a lawyer, it's going to take how many years to do this? And then am I going to be a human rights lawyer? Am I going to be a corporate lawyer? What am I going to do? So from there, it was just, okay, we're not going to get into law anymore because law is going to be too long. And you actually need to make money now, and you need to do something that's effective. So I randomly ended up in healthcare. So I went from finishing my degree in political science and communications to working at a top hospital. And I just slowly climbed the ranks. I went from one hospital to the other, to the provincial healthcare, government healthcare, like a government sector that focused on healthcare. And I had a really good role. And then
what was your role?
I was in stakeholder relations. So really communicating messages out from the president and CEO's office to the sort of provincial health networks.
So was that off the back of the degree that you had done?
I think it helped to have a degree, but I think more so what helped me get into the role really was good mentors and good people who kind of saw my potential, and they were like, okay, you're smart, you can make things happen quickly, you can communicate, here you go, here's an opportunity or here's a role, let's groom you into this. And then I would have like these amazing bosses, some total jerks, but some really good bosses that were like, here's an opportunity. And then they would just kind of level me up in every role. And so I just rocked with it. I joined this organization, this charity at the time called the Black Health Alliance. My little brother had been in and out of the healthcare system for like 15 years at the time. And they kept misdiagnosing him. So every time they diagnosed him with something, then they came up and they're like, oh, it's not this, it's this, it's this, it's this. And I just felt like the treatment of Black people, particularly Black men, if I'm honest, and now as I experience myself, Black women, but I just felt like our health outcomes, our health symptoms were miscalculated and consistently wrong, and I didn't understand. So I joined this organization that really prioritized health and well-being for the Black communities, and that is when I started to really just go down the path of healthcare. In the healthcare world, it is a bit depressing because I would say that it's very red tape. There's like, this is the structure, this is what's been approved, this is kind of the bureaucracy of it all. If you want to step outside or you want to argue, like go find someone to argue with, but here we follow the rules. And I found it to be draining. So I ended up resigning and just decided to bet on myself and launching my consulting company. This was 2017, 2018. I had just said, you know what? I'm just going to launch my consulting company because working in healthcare is not it for me. And the amount of money I was making in healthcare, I was like, okay, all I need to do is make this amount for myself, and I will have replaced my income. So let me start from baseline, get 3 or 4 clients, and then within 7 months of working for myself, I replaced my income plus more. And I was like,
wow,
this makes no sense, right? So once I built my consulting company, I really started to really like pay attention to the connections that I made over the years. And I realized that and it's so corny to say, but it's so real. Your net worth is a direct reflection of your network, right? And all the business I was getting, it really had to do with the way I treated people, the relationships that I had, and how people felt about using my services and how they would refer me to other people. And that literally translated to more opportunities, more money. So I started to pay vital attention to my relationships and make sure that I handled people with care and dignity as much as I could.
What was your consultancy business? What sort of stuff are you consulting on?
So I consulted on starting a business, writing a business plan, structuring deals.
You were consulting on starting a business as your first business
as my first
before
business.
you had even.
But you know what? It wasn't even my first business. My first business was my graphic design, and then I went and I opened a modeling agency called Genesis, and then I opened up a festival called Afro Chic.
Wow.
And this festival actually was one of my most proudest moments. I actually formed it as a co-founder with my 3 high school friends. We were the only Black girls in the high school. Not only Black girls, like we were one Black girl in each of our different sections. So I was in classical music. I had a friend that was in drama. I had a friend that was in visual arts, and I had a friend that was in dance because it was a performing arts high school. So this curriculum was broken up by artistic discipline. And we were one Black girl in each of the things, and we just came together naturally. And we formed this brand called Afro Chic. Obviously, it outgrew the brand that kind of outgrew us. We kind of lost touch. We're still, for the most part, in touch, but we decided that we would create something, and I ended up taking the reins. So Afro Chic became like this thing, like where it started off with just like this gathering for Black people to just get together, talk. In 2010, so I'm dating myself here, but it started off as like this space for Black people to get together and network and talk about art, culture, hair, business. And we started off with 50 people in 2010. Our last major event in 2019, we had like 2,000 people. So it scaled significantly over the years, slowly. And we went from, people knocking on small businesses for $50, $100 donations to like raising $500,000 for the last event where we brought Issa Rae to to headline it. And then the year before that, we brought Erykah Badu. And then the year before that, we brought Jadena. And then we had done some other cool things.
Wow.
So like this is what I was doing while I was working in healthcare.
And you were just about to bypass all of that.
Yeah, it just hit me. I'm like, how did I get into the consulting?
Afro Chic,
I got into the consulting really as a byproduct of Afro Chic and the relationships that I had built there, because working in the arts and entertainment sector, there were so many gaping holes and opportunities, and people always needed funding. People always needed strategy. They needed pitch decks. They needed, systems to be able to mobilize what they were doing.
So this is what leads you on to where you're at now then, I guess.
Yeah. So after Afro Chic was a massive success, we had, as I mentioned, Issa Rae come to Toronto, and she headlined our event. We continued to just build relationships, and everything was crispy, like all just amazing. And then boom, pandemic hits. And we're all inside now. And from there, I had previously started this business, but I didn't expect that it would catalyze so quickly and move so quickly. But this company that I started in 2019 was called Pitch Better. And it's a market research firm and capacity building company that helps small businesses scale and grow. And we do that through workshops, through other capacity initiatives like events, coaching. We do market research, so under our research and innovation pillars. And we've to date done 5 funded studies. So we actually get contracts from the government to actually do research and produce these reports that talk about different things. And these reports operate as policy documents, essentially, because they help say, wow, this is an issue that's happening. Okay, let's go create an initiative, or let's go put some money behind this. And one of our reports actually catalyzed the creation of a Black Farmers Fund, right? So we did a research study called Afroculture. And then this study allowed the government to be like, oh, wow, Black farmers in Canada are treated really badly. We need to make a fund, right? We did another study on Black entrepreneurs overall. And then the government created a $221 million fund for Black entrepreneurs during the pandemic George Floyd era. And it wasn't solely based on our research, but our research was a huge vehicle for them to understand some of the data points and some of the gaps that Black entrepreneurs faced in Canada. So that was a market research firm that basically spun out of, okay, we can't go outside, so we have to do all this work inside. But what do we have? An engaged audience. We have people that are all on their computers, and we have endless time. So now we can gather a lot of insights and collect a lot of data and really build this business in that sense.
Was this something that you just thought about because you were stuck inside?
So I launched the business before we actually ended up going on the pandemic, but I would say being inside helped me to really think it through, like on a deeper level, because what we initially wanted to do was just go and do these workshops for entrepreneurs called Secure the Bag. So literally, how do you actually secure money for your business? Like, don't just tell me, I believe in you, you're gonna do great, believe in yourself, fight hard. No, give me the tangible steps. 1, open a bank account. 2, like break it down. Like,
Can you please break it down for us?
For the audience.
We have a lot of
Specific.
entrepreneurs in the
Absolutely.
audience.
So understand your target market. Understand your target audience, right? Who are the people that are going to be buying or needing your services or products, right? That is the number one thing. I would say the first thing, actually, even before that, create a lean business model canvas. So if you guys in the audience, I'm looking at the camera. I don't know if I'm looking at the right camera, but if you've ever spent the time to do a business plan, they're long, it's exhausting. Sometimes you don't even use it. Create something or use a template of a lean business model canvas that allows you to sketch out your business idea in a very easy and practical way. And you can use it as a test, right? You can test and validate your idea using this lean business model canvas. And if it makes sense, and if all the sort of ideas map out and they work, then do a business plan, right? So start off with your lean business model canvas. Understand your target audience, because without demand, there's no need for your supply. So always really, assess if this market makes sense. Understand your break-even point. So how much money do you have to actually put up for you to actually, what is the cost of business, right? How can you actually do business using the resources that you have? And if you were to get some capital, how much runway do you have? Meaning what's the time between the money that you have now and then, after you've spent everything, what does that look like? The next thing I would say that's important is to understand where you're trying to go with your business. What is your trajectory? Are you doing a business to survive? Are you doing a business to just pay your bills? Or are you creating a business that can yield long-term, generational wealth? Are you building something that you can will to your children? Because that's 2 different type of businesses, right? Like a business that you literally just need to make ends meet and pay your rent and keep the lights on, versus actually I'm building an enterprise that I can will to my children and they can actually run this business. So when you think about that, you're going to look at, P&L statements. You're going to be looking at market competitors. You're going to be looking at opportunities to scale. You're going to be thinking at a level of, okay, am I operating a lifestyle business that, affects me and you, or am I building an enterprise that I can sell services to the government, right? B2G, or sell services to other businesses, which is a B2B. So I think those type of questions are interesting for the audience to sort of explore. And further to that, look at businesses that are already existing in the market that you're in and understand if your business is even needed. A lot of the times, and I don't mean to say this in an offensive way, but our people, sometimes we just do things off of vibes.
Yeah.
We
A
literally
lot
have
of people
so
do.
much.
I've
We
done
literally
so many
have-
things just for vibes.
we have no data. We have no market research.
It just feels like it works.
We just have this instinct, and then it fails, and we lose a lot of money, and we spend a lot of unnecessary time. So one of the biggest things with me and my consulting is really just helping people get out of the mindset of, I'm not building a business to be a hobby or to have like a whole bunch of followers on Instagram. I'm building a viable business that can actually make money and make returns. And so how do we get to that point? We do some market research and we really map out financially if this makes sense.
So if, let's say I come to you now, I've got a business idea, and I show you my business plan, and you say to me, oh, actually, this doesn't look like it's viable, scalable. 9 times out of 10, do people listen to that, or do they just go away and still? Because you hear stories of like, you know, I think it was what company was it? It was Canva. I saw
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Canva.
like the founder of Canva like got
100
rejected.
investors
said
rejected
no,
them.
and then someone said, yeah, you
Bless
know,
her.
yeah. So how do you navigate that?
You have to, I am a person, I sustain rejection every day, all day, every day, because not only do I help founders raise money, but I'm also raising money for my funds, and I'm also pitching services as a consultant, right? And I listen to rejection day after day after day. So I love that story about the Canva story. That's amazing. I would say I am not the end all be all. So when people come to me for my advice, I would just say, you know, if you have a strong feeling or a intuition that this is going to do well, nothing I say can deter you. You have to believe in it and you have to go for it. But I could strongly advise ways to be successful, even though the outcome might not be the greatest, right? So I could suggest some of the things I mentioned earlier. And what I usually love to do is a case study of an existing business in a similar market, so they can sort of look at the story and look at sort of that user journey that the entrepreneur's customers go through, right? I think I don't really like to deter most people. I believe anything is possible. And I think experience is the best teacher. So you do sometimes have to go off of vibes, and you have to experience, and you have to fail. And that's when you'll be able to make decisions. And I always talk about this, like fail fast, like fail quickly, so you don't fail like 10 years down the road, right? Like it's better to just fail within 2-3 months of trying something.
It's interesting as well with the Canva story, because 100 people turned them down. That means they had to pitch 100 times. And
Right.
no way would they pitch the same way twice. So maybe it just took 100 times to perfect.
She was iterating every time.
Refining and
And that's amazing because, see, she failed fast. Like the quicker she failed, she was able to pick back up, and then all it takes is one yes.
Yeah.
She literally heard 100 no's, and then that one yes, and now she has a $1 billion valuation company.
Yeah.
And she's laughing, and all those investors that said no, they're probably kicking themselves.
Yeah.
it also shows, I guess, like resilience, you know, because like most people after the first no would be rejected and stuff, you know. So it's like, I think resilience is important. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's so important. And I think if you're a person like me, like hustlers don't hear the word no. Mm-hmm. They just, let me figure it out.
Yeah, try again.
I'm going to try again. I have to figure it out. Like they just don't hear the word no. And like resilience is like our bloodline. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's literally all we know. And I think I love to hear stories of resilience and determination, because I feel like it is so easy to give up. It is so easy to take the easy way out. It's so easy to be like, all right, I'm just get a 9 to 5 because what's the point? But when you keep going and you keep trying and you have that one win, it made everything worth it. And it just validates, right, the need for more people who just take risks and just bet on themselves.
100%, I think resilience is key, but I also think it's paired with confidence.
Right.
You seem to have this innate confidence from a young child. Do you think that's come from the support your parents have given you? You've spoken about the belief that your father had in you and your mother. Do you think a lot of your confidence has come from that?
100%. I think my parents are like amazing. I love my parents so much, and I believe that like we are our, it sounds so corny, but it's, we are like our ancestors answered prayers. Right? So like everything that we're doing now, somebody back then was praying for us to be able to be here. So I just like to give honor to my parents for every sacrifice that they made for me. But what instilled confidence in me is consistently having to reinvent myself. Every single era I've gone through in my life, I have to just find a way to rise to the top of the service where I could, you know, be going, drowning. And then I have to be like, you're meant for more. You're destined for more. Get up. You know what I mean? I feel like having to go through so many different things in my life, so many different cycles where I could have drowned or died and I came back up. I have no other choice but to be confident because I'm here. Like I could tell you stories of like things I've been through, you know, like I went through the horrible postpartum depression. And I didn't even think I could be a mother. I was like, oh, I don't think I can handle this. This is hard. I'm even like shy to say this because I know my son might watch this in the future, but I looked at motherhood and I was like, holy smokes, I'm not ready. Like, I am a flawed person. How am I going to manage this like perfect, innocent thing that's depending on me for every single thing? Like, I can't even squeeze the milk out properly. I can't do anything. Like, I'm useless. And I was going through all these things. And I think I had to be like, no, you've overcome this. You've overcome this. You've overcome that. You've overcome that. You're going to figure this mom stuff out and you're going to kill it. And I think that I just reinvented myself as a mom then. Yeah, he's
your son's
2.5.
So I think that's beautiful because at 2.5, there's a lot of mothers that may still be going through postpartum depression when their child's 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, they don't.
They said it takes 7 years to get your brain back to where it was. I don't think my brain's back. I think I'm just creating a new brain.
It's almost like that. Not to negatively put a spin on it, but it's almost like that whole fake it till you make it concept. You know, you're almost
Literally.
like sometimes you just, you know, tell yourself that this is you and then you become it, you know?
Become it. Well, faith it till you make it.
Faith it, yeah, that's a better
right?
way
Like you're
to
just
tone
like,
it, yeah.
I just have to have faith and trust in God that this is gonna work because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And I believe so strongly that my son made me more confident.
Wow.
My son made me more of a go-getter. I think I don't want to cry. I remember like when I had my son and I was in London and I kind of had like a traumatic birth experience. So I had my whole situation planned. I had like this nice apartment. Like we had like the water tub. Everything was planned. Everything was sorted out. And I remember my water broke and I didn't really realize my water broke. And then let me go to the hospital because, you know, something's not right. Go to the hospital. Oh, your waters have broken. I went to King's College in London. And my mom hadn't come into the town yet. And I was by myself. My son's dad was like yonder at work and he was trying to drive to come all the way down. Like he lives 6 hours away from London. And I was terrified. I was like, wow, I'm here by myself. Like I went through so many things to just end up by myself with this child. Like they told me I couldn't have a midwife. Like they had told me all of these different things in the room in the hospital. And then somebody ended up coming to advocate and fight for me, which I'm grateful for. But I was like, damn, this is really rough. And I think the stress and the strain of all that took me into a 38 hours of labor.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, 38 hours.
That's a long time being awake.
I was like, it was not a pleasant experience. And I said to myself, okay, if I make it through this, because, you know, sometimes Black mothers don't make it through. Let's just be real. If I make it through this, I'm going to live my very best life and my kid's going to have the very best I have to offer. So I remember just being so alone, being like quite isolated. And when he arrived and he was here, I was like, okay, everything makes sense. As corny as it sounds, I really had to go into myself to just appreciate the woman that I was and then the woman that I was about to be as a mom. And to date, yeah, it's just been a great journey. Like my son and I have traveled the world. My son's been to 14 countries.
Wow, that's good.
He's a very lively person. He's a very tolerant person at such a young age. He accepts people. He's welcoming. He's full of laughter and joy. You wouldn't know he came into the world in such tense conditions because he's just full of life. So
how do you balance, being a mother with, having your fund and, investing in numerous companies and,
Now starting a salon.
Yeah. Oh my God. Finding balance is what I started off saying because I feel like this is a constant journey and this is a constant evolution. I have a lot of support from my family. I have to say that without my grandmother and my mom, sometimes my dad and my grandpa, I don't know how I would have done this. My work requires and needs me to travel and be in the air a lot because I have clients in different regions and different places. And it's not like we're in the COVID where I can just jump on a Zoom. Now people really appreciate face-to-face interactions. And I make the most money when I am physically in the space of the person that's like writing the check. I learned that smart money moves faster as well. So like you have to move fast. You have to move quickly. You have to, you can't be hasty. You can't be thirsty, but you have to, think strategically. And sometimes opportunities, there's hidden opportunities and things that you just have to have the intuition to realize, okay, this requires me actually being there. So I have to really think deeply when I make decisions to travel or when I make decisions to move. And I found that my instinct has brought me through quite well. But the challenge is having a toddler, like a very small kid that's reliant on me, that is, expecting me to see me and all that stuff. So that is something that I'm still trying to figure out, like crack the code to. I think what I want to improve on is scaling my team. So growing my operations where I can write myself out of the day-to-day. I don't have to hop on this flight and go to London or go to Switzerland or, go to a country in Africa for this deal or this opportunity. I can send a delegate or I can send a staff member in my place. But my company is still quite early in the grand scheme of this consulting thing where I still have to be the face. I still have to be the person that
your clients want you.
They want to see me, they trust me. And when it comes to Founders, so Founders is it's an investment vehicle, but it's also a venture studio that was designed off the back of our research study on Black women entrepreneurs called Founders in 2021. And it's a $5 million fund that writes checks of the size $100,000 to $250,000 to women-led businesses that are high growth, scalable businesses, I should say.
When they give these checks, are they then taking an investment cut?
Yes. So what happens is when we write these checks, we do take an equity position in the company. And it's usually like a small fraction, like 2 to 5% ownership of the company. But it basically is saying, like, if we were to think of your company as a donut, right? Your donut's cut off into 20 parts. I am taking one of those 20 parts and I'm saying, in exchange for my money that can help you scale your operations, you can hire a team, you can, bring on more marketing, you can actually increase the value of your business and move faster with your business. So we have a lot of supports from our capital that we provide, also the wraparound services, and now we're doing these like global immersion opportunities because as I said, like you really need to, your network is really going to determine your net worth. And we don't want to have a situation where women are only marketing and building businesses to the people that are around them in their 10-kilometer radius. You can't earn the maximum amount of money when you're just building for the people around you. You have to build globally and act locally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's good because you're investing financially in the business, but you're also investing in the individual because
Absolutely.
that is where you're going to see the return, right?
Right.
The ROI. So.
And I mean, an entrepreneur, the right entrepreneur can pump out 10 incredible business ideas, but 10 business ideas can't come from, like, you know what I mean? Like the right entrepreneur can come up with any idea and then they can replicate it and create it. It's something that's in them. Like entrepreneurship is like, there's just something special about entrepreneurs.
Where can entrepreneurs find Founder?
So Founders, our website is founders.vc. And then we're also on all of the social media platforms, founders.vc. And it's a very new initiative. So we're not even a year old yet. But we have raised $1 million for our venture studio. And our goal is to continue to raise it and open up in different markets. So that's part of the reason why I'm in Dubai right now, because I'm actually doing some market research to sort of understand what is the opportunity in the Gulf, right? Because I know that there's oil money there. There's, so many different industries that are thriving, but what does that look like for international businesses that want to, enter into the Gulf? And then what are the investment opportunities for businesses that want to stay here and thrive and grow?
So as an entrepreneur in the UAE or just even the GCC, are they able to come to Found Her can you support those companies?
So I think that's our next step, right? So right now we're domiciled in Canada. Our funding came from the Canadian government and like a lot of Canadian entities, Accenture, Canadian Women's Foundation, and a number of other foundations and institutes. But now we're like, wow, this is a global opportunity, especially if we want to export these businesses out of Canada. So we want to have them making money in yen, in pounds, in different currencies. We then have to look at what's the complement to that. Okay, other businesses from other parts of the world should also have a stake in this accelerator so they can also scale into Canada and globally. And I feel like our IP, our intellectual property it's sorry to toot my own horn, but it's pretty lit, right? And it doesn't have to be a Canadian-centric program. It can be global because the mindset or the thinking behind it was global. Like we built this program because we want businesses that women are thinking at the level where I'm building a business I can sell, right? Because think about how powerful that is. I'm building something that I can sell. That means that you can just create anything. And once you create it, once you can do it again, right? And the Amazons of the world, the Facebooks of the world, the Shopifys of the world, they didn't just build a business to hold tight and hold on to and, oh my God, this is my everything. They built a business that they can sell. Now that they're publicly traded businesses, people are buying shares in those companies every day, right? And so I want us as people, as a culture, to get into the mindset that I can actually build a business I can sell because I can build something today, sell it tomorrow, and go and create something else, right? And not look at it in such a like possessive way, like this is my company, oh my God, oh my God. No, if you build something dope that a lot of people can enjoy and find value in, grow it, scale it, sell it.
And start again.
And walk away as a multimillionaire.
And I guess that applies across all industries, right?
All industries, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a niche or if you have something that's super dope and that you can scale and a lot of people like it, grow it, build it, scale it, sell it.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that's good. And so, where are you at now in your journey?
In my journey, that's such a good question. Depending on the day. In my journey, I think I've gone through some life transformations in the past few weeks. I had just some things surfacing from therapy and a couple of life events that propelled me to look at my abandonment issues, if that makes any sense, and look at where I was selling myself short, and falling into this habit of people pleasing and all of these things. So I decided to embark on a 40-day and 40-night wellness transformation. So what that entailed, at first I didn't know what I actually was doing, but I said I'm going to commit to something and stick to it and see if the same energy that I give to my work and my laptop and my cell phone, if I could just give that to my body. And so I started going to the gym. I made a commitment that I would spend an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes every day in the gym for 40 days straight. Even if I wasn't, doing the most strenuous or like heavy lifting, I would actually just be in the gym. And I found it to be more mentally transformative than anything I've done, more than therapy, more than going on retreats, more than writing out, journaling, literally being physically in the gym, pumping weights and lifting stuff was changing my mind. I felt it, right?
Yeah.
I also cut back on sugar. I cut back on carbs. I didn't eat rice. I didn't have any alcohol. And I found these things to be like a weight was lifted off my shoulder in a weird way. I don't feel like I even miss alcohol. I don't even feel like I miss some of the things that I used to crave, right? Because I feel like sugar is kind of dangerous, for our bodies. And I was like I had like a little bit of a sugar
Addiction.
Sweet tooth.
addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet tooth. I found myself like craving sugar, just candy. I needed, and I'm like, and yeah, there's a lot of studies that show that sugar is linked to like ADHD, like obsessive compulsive disorders, even some forms of depression, cancers. And I found myself to feel much healthier without so much sugar consumption.
Was it easy or like the first 5 days where they, like
The first 5 days, the first week wasn't hard. It was like, okay, this is fun. This is cute. Whoa, I'm getting so much love. Like my friends are like, yo, I'm so proud of you. You got 7 days in a row, dude. But by like day 9 and 10, I was like, shit, what did I sign up for? Because I also posted this on my Instagram. So like people were like tuned in now. And I'm like, shit, now I look like a poppy show if I flop, because I've already posted this and I'm saying that I'm doing this day 2, day 3, day 2. And now everyone's like invested in my journey, where I have actual friends like, I logged in just to make sure that you went to the gym today.
That's so sweet.
And people are now tagging me in their journeys. So it's like having a spiral effect. And I'm like, this is dope, right? But it was hard when I got to like day 20. When I got to my halfway mark, I was like, oh, this is hard. But then my pants that I used to struggle to like, oh, let me try to get in these pants, they were just going up nice. And my back was getting smaller, the big back syndrome. Everything was just smalling up, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually a thing. So I started to appreciate it because I saw some small wins. And that's one of the things I wanted to say too. Like, if life is getting hard or things are just challenging, sometimes we just have to zero in on small wins. Even if you just had one small win for the week, it's better than focusing on this massive, huge win that might take a lot of steps and take a lot of effort. Like,
What was one of your small wins today?
one of my small wins today was, what was my, doing this podcast. This is actually enlightening my soul, like it's really, really enriching my soul, because I had a little bit of a stressful day running around, trying to look at this new project, this new business opportunity, and feeling like, this is scary. And then I came here and I got to build with you guys. It's a small win. I should say it's a medium win. It's actually dope. Yeah, but I would say, like, to the people that are listening to this podcast, like, life is just a whole bunch of decisions and choices, and every choice, every decision catalyzes something else. So celebrate the small wins, make wise decisions, and stand on business. You know what I mean? Like stand on what you decided, because that decision will lead you to something else.
Yeah. And will you continue past the 40 days, or is there going to be some tweaks?
Yes. So I am actually going to continue beyond the 40 days, because I found that it is not just a physical thing. It's actually like spiritual now. Like going to the gym feels like, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but it feels like a ritual now. It feels like a part of my life where I'm loving myself. I'm like showing, I'm showering myself with love, and I'm basking in like my self-appreciation. And now I can totally see why gym bros are like in the gym. Like it actually is a lifestyle thing. And I don't know if you guys have found this, but people who go to the gym, I find them to be more optimistic and just positive. And like they just have much more that they look forward to in life, as opposed to, you know, my friends that don't necessarily find the time. Like people who go to the gym find the time to be so productive in so many other areas of their life and get so much done.
It's true, actually.
Yeah.
When I go to the gym, I'm much more productive.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that like, a lot of our guests have said as well, and I feel it as well. It's like when you go to the gym, like you never leave the gym feeling worse than when you went in.
Yes.
You know?
And it's just like that small dedication. It's a mindset thing, right? Like how
It's
do
a
you
win
feel
to
when
yourself.
you go?
Yeah.
You've shown up for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you've lifted a heavier weight today, or gone a little bit longer on the Stairmaster or something.
Yeah. And for me, like in the gym is sometimes where I process certain things as well. You know, like I reflect on certain things, or you know, I might in between a set reply to an email or something that's delayed. You know, so it's almost like that little.
Stairmaster used to be my 30-minute replying to emails time.
Yeah, I
Need
do
to
the
get back.
Stairmaster. It's brutal though. It's brutal.
Yeah, but
Oh
then
my
you start to
gosh.
get into it, right?
Yeah,
So then you're like, oh,
I have my
actually, this
music
isn't as
playlist
bad.
for the Stairmaster. Like I actually make my music playlist before I get to the gym, and I'd be like, okay, 18 minutes, okay, 7 more to go. Like I actually, yeah, and I found the more harder the activities, actually more rewarding you feel at the end.
Because you feel accomplished.
Yeah, you feel like, damn. There's research that says like it's a stimulus, like it stimulates you.
Yeah.
You know?
I think so. Yeah, I think especially you know like if you're like lifting weights or doing cardio and you're getting the heart rate up, it's definitely releasing endorphins. You know, that have an impact on the day and stuff. So yeah.
And I think like if you're in like any fog too, like if you're in any fog, you can just, and this is coming from a totally ableist perspective. Like there's some people that physically can't enter the gym, so I acknowledge and I make space for that. But if you're like in some type of a fog or mental fog, actually like taking the pressure off of your mind and putting it into a concentrated effort to put it on your body, I think it actually helps clear up thoughts and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, that's great. Man.
You've shared a lot of gems today, a lot of gems. So thank you very much. But I have to ask, do you have anything else you would like to share?
No, but people can feel free to reach out to me to find me online.
Where can they find you?
My Instagram is just my name, Amoye Henry. I'm also on LinkedIn, Amoye Henry. My website is amoyehenry.com. Support these lovely people. I think they are doing something so good for the culture and for humans. And I think they need all the love and support, and they just need energy sent their way. So support this podcast because I can see great things for them.
Thank you.
No, thanks, appreciate that. And you came out, you spoke out here, didn't you? You came
Yes,
to speak
I
at an
came
event,
to
didn't you?
speak at GITEX and the Expand North Star. So thank you to GITEX. Thank you to North Star for having me. Expand
What is
North Star.
GITEX for? Like,
So
people that don't know?
GITEX is apparently the largest tech conference in the world. There are 200,000 attendees this year that flew in from around the world to attend. And I think the tech scene is growing and blooming in the UAE, especially just the MENA region overall. I think the government is very smart here, and they are making a concerted effort to look at industries that stimulate job growth, that stimulate, professional growth and attract international attention. And I think hosting it here is very strategic and makes a lot of sense. And so I came down, I brought my team. We did some workshopping, some learning. We took some meetings. I spoke on 2 different panels. One of the panel was focused on fundraising in the academic climate for like universities. The other one was fintechs. So the fintech surge, we're looking at the impact of fintechs in emerging markets. So we brought 5 women investors from all around the world, sat down and literally talked about trends in fintech, what to predict with AI and how that kind of implicates finance and all of these great things. So it was a beautiful experience. And I love Dubai. Like every time I come here, I never want to go. Last time I came to Dubai, my book was tripped. My trip was booked for 4 days, and I extended my trip like 4 times.
I remember you extending. That was
I just kept extending.
You're like, no, I can't.
And I was like, my nanny was like, "What is this?" I like flew my nanny because I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm gonna do. I need a nanny, so I actually had to bring a nanny. It was just gonna be me and my son, but I had a feeling that I was gonna just extend.
I want to ask you actually one last question. For people who have their business all together and they are looking for funding, what's one top tip when you're going into one of these meetings to be able to actually secure the funding?
Start the relationships with the investors and the people that you need the money from before you need the money. So think about when you go to somebody and you asking for a favor. It's coming across as like you need a favor, right? Investors are very money driven. They're very ROI driven. So you want to approach them about what you have to offer well in advance before you even need the money, right? And you want to present things as an opportunity for them to jump in, not as, okay, it's a rainy day, I'm drowning, save me. Because then it's charity and they're not attracted to that. They're attracted more to, okay, what's the return on investment for me, right? So start by building the relationship in advance and always aim to deliver value before you make an ask, right? So if you can offer value, you can offer services, introductions, connections. This always sticks in people's mind and they remember and they want to help you when the time comes. So always build the relationship before you need the money.
Interesting.
That's useful. And we have a tradition on the podcast. At the end, we ask all our guests the same question. So if you could implement one rule for everyone in the world to follow, what would it be and why?
Be kind. We're all just walking each other home. And life is short, but life is also long, right? So somebody that you met 5 years ago may not get along with them, may not like them, but you might see them out and about and you might need them or they might need you. So be kind because life is long. And we're literally like walking each other home. Like we're all going to the same destination, right? And so, yeah.
Thank you.
That. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been really insightful having you here today.
Thanks for coming down, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.